Welcome to the Lock Shop with Nielsen and Hustler, powered by Coolbet Canada.
What is going on, cool bettors, lock shoppers, ESTers, WSTers? Yes, you can see once again the replacements. We are back inside the lock shop, presented by Coolbet. Big weekend, Jake. None bigger than the granddaddy of them all, the Grey Cup, the 110th Grey Cup. We thought that heading into this show, Huss would be on his way back to Winnipeg, feeling a little bit hungover, feeling happy. But for the second straight year in a row, the Winnipeg Blue Bombers find themselves on the wrong end of an instant classic, losing to the Montreal Alouettes, completing one of the best Cinderella stories, really, that we've ever seen in CFL history. They're plus 280 to win the big game yesterday, plus 450 to win the East Finals. Don't have the number in front of me at the moment, but for them to actually win the Grey Cup at the start of the year was a high number, but they finish it. They do it off an MVP performance from Cody Fajardo. Just all in all, an amazing finish. Not meaning to dunk on our friend Huss here, but another crushing loss for the Blue Bombers.
Yeah, people are starting to ask, can Winnipeg not win the big one, right? I mean, 2 in a row now. I'm just kidding. No. I mean, obviously, unreal story. Got to give credit to Montreal, right? I didn't get a chance to catch the game. I was in Buffalo, which we'll get to, but I did see some of the highlights as they were happening, and that last drive looked incredible. I think Fajardo had a huge play downfield on a third down to get them in striking distance, and then found a way. I think 10 seconds left, and Montreal gets it done. They go into Toronto, beat Toronto. Obviously, they had beaten Hamilton the week before, and then back to Hamilton to beat, one of the teams that we're talking about as, a current dynasty in the CFL. And yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate for Winnipeg that it's happened like this in back years, but I expect they'll probably be back in the mix a season from now. So yeah, lots to talk about. I mean, obviously the Grey Cup seems like it was an amazing time, and it looked like Huss and Dusty were having a great time down there. They're traveling back. So yeah, I mean, just a great season of CFL. I mean, I think people are always, quick to bash on the CFL a bit, but to see what Montreal was able to do, it really shows, what can happen in that league. So.
I mean, if you're not a big CFL fan or really watch it all, you missed out the last 2 years. I was in Regina for the Toronto Argos big victory, that block field goal, unbelievable finish. And then even this year, that game-winning drive, absolutely just banana lands. The Grey Cup always delivers. And if you had any questions on why you weren't doing it, next year you gotta tune in. And you mentioned how the Blue Bombers, will they be in the mix next year? Probably. No odds as of right now for the 111th Grey Cup, but you gotta assume they'll be up there. You gotta also assume those Toronto Argos will be up there as well. But when we do get those out, when we do get the 2024 CFL lines up for Grey Cup, we'll be for sure to get those out. I'm sure the Lock Shop boys will want to talk about that as well. But speaking of those long-term lines, the Alouettes opened up at plus 1050 when we initially offered those before the season started. At one point, the longest that they had was 20-1. So imagine getting a ticket on the Owls to win there. And then 17-1 in late October before the playoffs begun in the CFL. So again, CFL coming lines will be coming soon, I should say. Just checking in on the nasty chat. We haven't forgot about you folks. So if you want to get involved in the conversation, hit us up in the nasty chat. You can also tweet us at P. Greggy. That's me. Or Jake Bolamos. You can tweet him at Jake Bolamos. And of course, the show's socials as well, at Lock Shop Bets or YEG Sports Talk. Just looking into the chat, our friend Mark absolutely fired up because he asked for the tease. He got Patty's G's tees. That one was pretty no sweat, I must say. I guess this is an easy transition into the National Football League. A lot of really interesting results. I think the cream is starting to rise to the top. But one of the better stories in the NFL was that Monday nighter. Josh Dobbs, the Pastronaut, almost gets it done. But that one, they pretty much were covering that plus 8.5. Cash the Patty G's tees. I'm going to be bringing back this week. And Mark, you're welcome for that one. But before we get into that, I guess, while we get into it, I should say, Jake, you have kind of an interesting theme. You and I were talking off air, and I think it's a great discussion that needs to be talked. I talked about how the cream is rising to the top. For example, the two teams which we're going to talk about tonight, the Chiefs and the Eagles, those teams are elite. Those teams are Super Bowl contenders. But there still is this little, middle area where there are some teams that when you look at them on paper, when you look at what they've done so far this season, can you tell if they're really a championship contender? I think you want to do a little bit of a deep dive into who's real and maybe who are a little bit fraudulent in the National Football League.
Yeah, I think this was something I took a peek at, and I teased it to you. I didn't tell you exactly who I was going to go into, but I'm sure we can predict. I got 3 teams here that I got on my fraud watch list. It's teams that have 7+ wins, but the competition, the level of competition they're beating up on is not necessarily the cream of the crop like we speak about. I mean, the Chiefs and Eagles I think are both great teams. Here's the teams I'm looking at in terms of fraud watch, after week 11. First one, I'll start with the Jags. They pick up an easy win against Tennessee at home. They've been solid. Dusty's been high on them. But the thing is, the Jags have lost to Kansas City. They've lost to Houston, and they lost to San Fran. Houston's been coming around. They've been really strong. Kansas City, we know, is a good team. I think San Fran is one of those good teams as well. But then you look over at their wins. Indy twice, Atlanta, the Buffalo win, which was in London. I think they were already in London, so they were pretty ready to go for that one in terms of the time change and stuff like that. New Orleans, Pittsburgh, and then Tennessee this week. The Pittsburgh win, in Pittsburgh has been pretty good, but at the same time, this team's been getting outgained all season. You know how we talk about Pitt in terms of if they're actually good or not. So really not a marquee win on their schedule. 7-3 Houston this week. So I think this is a huge week for Jacksonville to decide whether they're going to be a legit team when playoffs come around in the AFC, or whether they're just going to kind of be middling and lose out to one of the bigger teams like a KC, like a Baltimore. Depending on how that all shapes out. So Jags are the first one. Next one I got are the Cowboys. Cowboys pump inferior opponents. Outside of that Arizona Cardinals loss, I have them averaging 33+ points per game against teams below 500. So I've been betting Cowboys team totals when they play bad teams. This week again, they had 33 points against the Panthers. Cleared that, no problem. But like I said, the same kind of teams they're losing to. San Fran, Philly are their losses. They beat the Giants twice, the Jets, the Patriots, the Chargers, and Carolina. They haven't beat anybody. So I just don't know, if these teams are actually legit. They got Washington this week, obviously playing on Thanksgiving on Thursday. So that's not going to tell us much. I'll probably team total there as well, because they score a ton of points against bad teams. And when it comes to the good teams, they just don't seem to have that ability to finish off a game. Even you think about that Philly game where they had a chance to win and they didn't get it done. So last one I got on here, and I'm sorry for Dusty. I know it's his show, and but the Lions at 8-2, another team that really hasn't beaten anybody up to this point. They had a scare this week against the Bears. They had the big win against KC in week 1. And, we think the Lions are pretty legit at that point. And then they rattle off a few more wins. But listen, this is who they beat: Atlanta, Green Bay, Carolina, Tampa Bay, Las Vegas, LA Chargers, and now Chicago. I mean, they got Green Bay again this week. And I'm not quite sold on the fact that the Lions are as good as their record stands. So 3 teams I got on my fraud watch right now. I didn't rattle off the Lions' losses there. They've lost to Seattle and Baltimore. So Baltimore, I think, is a good team. I'm not quite sure on, but that's not a good thing for the Lions that they lost to Seattle. But we'll see. I mean, I'm sure they'll win that division. I haven't really looked at the rest of the schedule for these teams, but we're going to find out if these teams are legit once playoffs come around, because they're probably all going to get in. And you're just something to keep in mind as we get later in the season, and you're like, wow, look at Dallas. They got 12, 13 wins, whatever it ends up being. Or look at the Lions. They got 14 wins, because that's what it could end up being, right? They're 8-2, and depending on who they got left, it's just something to keep in mind when we get into the playoffs. And you're seeing some of the lines, and you're like, who have these teams beat? Who have these teams beat all season, and how legit are they really? So I don't know what your thoughts on there, Pat. Those are three that really stuck out to me: 7 or more wins, and really not beating any good competition.
Well, everyone knows, I've always been, a little bit questioning on the Cowboys. It's kind of the same story every single year. They've got the Bills in a couple of weeks. Again, maybe that's where our question goes for the next fraudulent team. I think a team that was on a lot of fraud watch and kind of proved themselves to, in fact, maybe be frauds, kind of took a positive step forward. You were in Orchard Park. You were a honorary member of Bills Mafia for the day. What do you think of the Bills' performance? Do you think it's that one game against a pretty good Jets defense, mind you, a terrible Jets offense? Is that enough to? I'm not going to say maybe take them off the fraud watch or say that they're now back, but does it give enough hope for Bills fans or maybe some Bills backers that have a ticket for them to win the AFC or the Super Bowl or to win the division even? Is there enough hope that this Bills team can turn things around?
Yeah, well, listen, I'm not sold on the Dolphins either. So if you think about the division, like you just mentioned, I mean, it's definitely room there. They got a gauntlet coming up. You know it. They got some good teams they got to play. I think they're playing the Cowboys, who we're not sure if they're good. I think they have the Chiefs on there, and maybe
Eagles. They still play the Eagles,
right? Yeah, they have the Eagles. So some really good football teams, and it's really going to be like, it's the hungry dog now, right? You got to be the hungry dog if you're Buffalo. You're looking for wins you can get at any point of the season. And beating up on a team like the Jets is a good start. The Jets defense was solid in the beginning of that game. I think held the first three scores for Buffalo were just field goals. But the problem with that Jets team is that offense can't do anything. When your defense is only off the field for 5-6 plays and they're punting it back, it's demoralizing for a team to just keep having to run out there. And, you can only play really good defense for so long until, you're down in the dumps. And I was standing next to a Jets fan yesterday at the game, and I was just talking to him, and I'm just like, man, this has got to be like infuriating to watch, because I'm watching a really good defense in front of me. And if only we had a competent quarterback to get this team, realistically, keep the defense fresh, drive down the field, score some points, and keep your football team in the game. I don't know. Zach Wilson is not the answer. I mean, he got benched yesterday for Tim Doyle, and, he didn't look any better. And, it's a bit of a nightmare in Jets land, but that's kind of how it's always been for New York. So, yeah, I mean, it's a good win for Buffalo. It's the one you need. But, yeah, now you're coming up on the gauntlet here. I think you're going to get, a good team. I think you get the bye, and then it's go time for the Bills. So I think they can still get in. I mean, obviously, Cincy is going to tail now, probably without Burrow. I don't know what's going on with the rest of that AFC North. I mean, Baltimore and Cleveland and Pittsburgh all in the playoffs right now.
Yeah.
So that'll be an interesting one. Denver is another interesting one. Like this team.
5-5 now all of a sudden.
But Buffalo's right there. I looked at it today. I think they're just on the outside of the wild card right now. So, I looked at it today. I think, you got to think 10 wins, I think, as a Bills fan. Anything more than that's probably gravy, and hope you get in with 10. And then once you get in, it's game on. It really, when it comes to the NFL, it's get in and then go from there. You can't really worry about matchups at this point if you're a Bills fan. And yeah, the game was awesome. I mean, I don't root for the Bills. Most people know that, but it's nice to go there and not have you have to watch your actual team, who's the Patriots for me. They're terrible. And just, root on the team to win and see my buddies enjoy the game as well. So yeah, no, good time down in Buffalo. And obviously a good win for the Bills. It's almost like that new coach bump, right? Joe Brady comes in and, I don't know, you watch more Bills football than I do. I don't know if the offense looked a lot different, but there's a lot more. The running back was a lot more involved. It wasn't necessarily a big Diggs, a big Davis game. It was kind of everyone else helping out. Kincaid was in the mix, and Khalil Shakir had a huge reception for a touchdown. Just an all-around solid game. I think the defense looks solid, and we'll have to see what happens when you hit the gauntlet here.
Yeah, I think it's a good building block game. We won't get in. We're not going to make this Bills talk here as much as I would like to on a Victory Monday. But yes, I think good building block. Really difficult remaining schedule, no doubt. But that could also be a good thing if you pick up a couple of wins over one of those three gauntlet games between the Chiefs, the Eagles, and of course the Cowboys, who, again, we don't know. Are they fraudulent? Are they real? Who knows? But before we get into the rematch of last year's Super Bowl, we're going to dive into the chat again. Of course, because the chat is going off. Duck Dad, he was actually one of the others who said that they were on Patty G's tees. Big shout out to Duck Dad. But he was also wondering, and this is a point of contention
this is
in betting land. If anyone could help us out, by all means. If anyone was live on location in Hamilton, someone had the camera out. We need the Zapruder film out because we haven't been able to see the shower. We don't know if there was a Gatorade shower. I was on Orange. We saw a photo and a video from the East Finals with the Montreal Alouettes. That was circulating, but they were wearing red jerseys. That was in Toronto. So that wasn't the right Gatorade shower. It was orange. Right now, as far as we know, I don't believe the tickets have been resulted. We will obviously keep everyone in the loop there, unless, Jake, if you've seen anything. If we can't, sorry, go ahead.
No, it looked like Duck Dad said it had pushed. So I don't know if that's what our guys had decided because we couldn't find a video within within the allotted time. We don't know. I mean, obviously that can be changed as well if we do end up seeing something come out. But there was talk about the coach. He was dry after the game. It's possible they just didn't do a shower. Maybe so caught up in the moment, and because they really did. They won in the last drive of the game, right? It's not like they were really prepared to. Usually the teams are up late and they got the ball, they're getting the shower ready. They won in the last 11 seconds, so that's maybe not necessarily what was on their mind. So I think we had the same issue with the coin flip. We don't know what heads and tails was. I think we had to.
They didn't even establish it.
So if you're wondering why that's happening, we have as much information basically as you guys do in terms of the coverage, the highlights, and stuff like that. And yeah, it's unfortunate because people like to bet on this fun stuff for big games like that, and we can't even get to see what ended up happening. So I mean, a push is definitely better than a loss, I'd say, in this case. But people would like to know who won. It looks like some people are on Orange. Yeah, I don't know. It looks like most people are saying here that it's pushed at the moment. So it might just remain that way. Unfortunately, we don't find anything.
Exactly. So again, normally it's about 48 hours to have a bet resulted either way. My guess is that we're probably not going to, if it's been since this morning, I don't think a photo or a video is going to pop out. There probably wasn't any. I believe this actually happened in one of the Super Bowls that the Patriots won during one of their many dynasties. They just didn't do one. There wasn't one. So that was voided. So we're not in completely uncharted waters here. This type of thing has happened before. So again, you said it. A void is a lot better than a push. Of course, I was on Orange, much like the chat was on Orange as well. So that was a bit unfortunate. But again, hey, you got your money back. Be able to use it maybe on some Monday night football. I know it's Chiefs football. I know it's the defending champs going up against the same opponent they beat in last year's Super Bowl. So you're probably hoping Huss was going to be here. Unfortunately, he's not. But we're going to make sure we try to get a ride with Huss Chiefs same game parlay from him. That will be up in the exclusives tab, but we'll also make sure we tweet it out. We'll get Huss to tweet it out so you can ride with Huss with his Chiefs, or maybe you're looking to go with the Eagles. And I think that's a good way to kind of start on this thing. We know the rematch. We know the history between Andy Reid and the Eagles. We know it. We heard it all leading up. It's the Kelsey Bowl, whatever you want. Regardless, any way you slice it, this is probably one of the best primetime games that we've had this season. Probably one of the best games we've had this season. The Chiefs at home at Arrowhead, -2.5. The Eagles are +127 on the money line. If you're looking for the Chiefs just to win, -137. The total at 45.5. I'll be honest, full transparency, don't know where to lean on a side here. Part of me with the Eagles, they're a team that just have found ways to win this season. I don't think they've played their best football yet. This would be a great spot for them to do so. Jalen Hurts looked phenomenal last year in this game against the Chiefs, but let's be honest, this is a completely different Chiefs defense. So a lot of things kind of been racking my brain back and forth. But one stat I saw this morning, which was just mind-blowing to me. Andy Reid coming off a bye, 21-3 in his 24 seasons as a head coach. That includes a 13-1 record with the Eagles and an 8-2 record with the Chiefs. So for me, if I had to lean somewhere, I think maybe it's with the Chiefs, but man, I don't think I really want to hit a side. There's a couple of props that I really, really like. So I'll probably go with props. Maybe I'll hit the over. But then again, Chiefs defense is really good. So is there a side or a total that you're really leaning here with, Jake?
Yeah, I mean, keep in mind the Eagles are also coming off their bye. I'm just looking, kind of moving the numbers around here because I saw 2.5 was plus money on the Eagles. So if you move it up to 3, the Eagles go to -120 at +3. It's a tough one. I was looking, one of the follows that I have on Twitter, he works for MGM. He was saying that 60% of the bets on Chiefs, 70% of the money. So that's tough. Usually you want to try to fade the public, but if the money's going that way too, it's not necessarily the exact. Sorry.
No worries. Sorry for interrupting. Majority of the tickets at Coolbet right now are on the Eagles, but the majority of the money is on the Chiefs. So that kind of goes right into what you're saying with some of the other sports books as well. So I guess an easy way to explain that, Jake, is that maybe the public is more on the Eagles where the sharp money is actually on the Chiefs. Sharp money meaning the more educated or the more professional, more seasoned bettors are backing with the Chiefs.
Sure, which isn't us, by the way.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to the total, I think it opened a little higher. It's come down a bit. Arrowhead at night. I'd love to see a shootout. I mean, I think, the better in me just would love to just take the over and hope for a nice, fun Monday night football game. As Portnoy does, the man in the suit, probably under makes more sense in terms of, the movement that we've seen, but it doesn't always necessarily mean that's what happens in the game either. So I think I'd be with you. I think I'd take the over. It's Monday Night Football. Just try to enjoy ourselves, hope for a bit of a shootout, and then it doesn't really matter who wins for argument's sake. But it'll be an interesting one. I have a hard time. I want to bet the Eagles, but I have a hard time betting against the Chiefs in Arrowhead at night off a bye, like you said. It's too many factors weighing in here. If it's in Philly, it might be a different story, but I think because it's in KC, that's what's really swaying me. So,
yeah, it's tough. It's tough. I think for me, again, a lot of the time when I come on this show with Dusty, with Haas, whoever it is, a lot of the time I stay away from the totals or from the side, I should say, and maybe hit a total, but try to stay with player props. And it's just, again, shout out to the guys who make the odds. They really do a really good job of pricing it out. And if I could have got the Eagles, at 3.5, that's kind of where I would be leaning. But then again, it's tough. So my official lean is I don't have a lean. I'm going to play some props. So this is probably a good transition into some of our player props. Jake, maybe how many do you have just off the cuff? How many player props do you have? Any that you
Yeah,
don't have to go into them yet? I'm thinking because I've got 3 that I really like. So maybe you go one and one. I'll go one, you go one, and kind of trade back and forth.
That sounds good to me. Yeah.
Okay, I'll start off. Jalen Hurts, anytime touchdown, plus 120. I'm kind of surprised we're getting this at plus money. I know Chiefs are one of the best. They've given up the least amount of touchdowns on the ground, but just the tush push, the brotherly shove, whatever you want to call it, man, it's just been automatic money this year for us. And we're getting it plus money, plus 120. I like it even more. Hurts has 7 rushing touchdowns already this season, and there's only been 3 games where he hasn't found the end zone. So pretty much if the Eagles can get within the 5-yard line, he's punching it in and he's probably getting in. And if he doesn't get in on the first time, they'll try it a second time and they'll probably get in. So Hurts plus 120. I know it's not the best price for a touchdown for a quarterback, but he's completely changed the game. This play has changed the game. There's a lot of debate around it, but until they change the rule, until the book starts changing the price on this, I'm just going to keep hitting Hurts plus 120 anytime touchdown.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'll go Eagles prop as well. I'm looking at AJ Brown here, over 81.5 yards. Maybe if we're doing a parlay, maybe we're teasing that down to an 80 plus or something like that. But you look at his game log this year, and it was big talk about these 125 plus yard games. Streak ends, I guess it was off the bye. So 2 weeks ago against Dallas, he had 9 targets, 7 receptions for 66 yards. But, if you're going to tell me AJ Brown's getting 8 to 9 targets, I don't see how he's not clearing 80 plus on most occasions. Obviously, it didn't happen against Dallas, but on most occasions, you look at his games before that: 130 yards, 137, 131, 127, 175, 131. So, I mean, he's been a monster all season, fresh off the bye. If we like the over, and we expect the Eagles to kind of have to stay with the Chiefs here, you got to imagine him, Devonta Smith, they're going to be involved in this offense. So, I like AJ Brown. It might be a little chalky, might be a little, one that kind of everyone's on, but the guy's an absolute machine, and I like that number, with fresh AJ Brown off the bye here.
It's hard to argue that just with the fact that, how good he's been. Sneaky, like MVP candidate, maybe like as a long shot, probably not because he's a receiver, but like when you look at the actual term, most valuable player, it's hard to argue that he's not the most valuable player, not only on this offense, but to this team right now. I'm going to stick with the Eagles, despite me saying I don't really have a lean. The fact that I'm, liking a lot of Eagles props doesn't mean that I like them to win the game. But DeAndre Swift over 48.5 rushing yards. Talked about how this Chiefs defense is different. Like, this is by far the best Chiefs defense Patrick Mahomes has had in his career. But it's mostly the pass defense. It's the secondary. They're only allowing 288.2 yards per game, which is the 4th best in the NFL. On the other side, though, some teams that have had some success putting up points and competing with this Chiefs team, they've done it while doing it on the ground. They're averaging by giving up 4.5 rushes per play, which is bottom 5 in the NFL. And they're giving up 112.3 per game, which is about middle of the pack. But specifically over the past 3 weeks, they're averaging 136.6 yards on the ground against. So not great defending the rush. And the Eagles, I mean, They have one of the best rush games in the game with that offensive line. And DeAndre Swift, I mean, he has been an absolute game changer since that first home opener, the I guess season opener, I should say, where he only touched the ball once. Since then, he's averaging 76.4 rushing yards per game. The other thing that you always got to keep in mind when it comes to the game of football as we get later into the year, the weather. It sounds like it's going to be cold. It's going to be rainy and a little bit of wind. So I think that will even more go into the fact that these teams are going to want to pound the rock, especially this Eagles team. So give me Swift over 58.5 points. If we're thinking about building a parlay, I would even tease it all the way down to 55 or 50.
Yeah, I like it. I mean, I got Swift in fantasy, so I'm hoping for a big night from him. I'm with you on that one. The other one I'm just looking at here, just moving around the board, Mahomes rush yards over 26.5. I don't mind.
Really like that.
I mean, we know that Eagles defensive front is a problem, right? And I saw the number look like it just moved. It's now even money over 26.5 on the rush yards. So, and you look at his game log from the year. His first 5 games cleared that. Our first 4 cleared that. Had 0 in game 5, then cleared it 2 more times, and then the last couple of weeks he's been kind of right there, 20 and 24. So, 6 of 9 games this year he's gone over that number, 26.5. And I think the secondary for the Eagles can cause them some issues in having those open receivers. I think we can see Mahomes using his legs here, and he knows how big of a game this is. Fresh off the bye week, I think a sneaky runner of the football, right? I mean, he's not an option guy. They don't really run the way they would with Hurts, but you will see him from time to time just not have anything, and he gets that gap in the middle of the field, and he gets a big chunk of gain. So we could see him clear that on 3 or 4 attempts of running the ball. So I like that one. 26.5 is that rushing yards for Mahomes.
It just seems like in these big games, Mahomes uses his legs a little more. He gets out, makes these crazy plays out of the pocket. And you mentioned how dangerous that front is for the Eagles. I think he's going to have to get out of the pocket. And sometimes when he does get out of the pocket, instead of making one of those crazy throws, he keeps himself and runs for a big gain. So that was one of my other bets on the card, for full disclosure. So I think that's going to be a no-brainer on our parlay. The other one, though, I know I just talked about the weather. I know we talked about how we think maybe these teams have the potential to get into an offensive showdown. So it doesn't really seem like a field goal game, but this is the lock shop. This is a primetime game. I'm taking the over 3.5. And let me throw you some numbers here, Jake. The Eagles and the Chiefs both average 2 field goals per game. Not a numbers guy, Jake, so you're going to have to help me out here. 2 plus 2. What does that equal?
I got 4 there for you.
4. 4 is more than 3.5. That is over. So by the numbers, by the principle, by the fact it's a primetime game, by the fact that we're getting plus money, plus 116, I'm taking over 3.5 field goals. I like this. 2 of the better kickers in the National Football League. Let's not forget, at the start of the season, Jake Elliott was one of the best players, most clutch players for this Eagles team, with how star-studded they are on offense. He was coming up with big kicks while that offense was struggling in the red zone to put up some points. So I think I really like that one there. Obviously, that will be in my primetime parlay, which you can get to in a little bit here. But for our parlay, I guess we'll call this one the replacements parlay. Maybe we'll see if the fellas, once they arrive to their destinations, if they want to put their own lock shop parlay, or if it's just Huss doing his ride with Huss. But for the replacement parlay, I mean, I think we got to have that Mahomes one in there. Do we want to put a Brown in there so we have 1 Eagles, 1 Chiefs, and then maybe something else?
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like Mahomes rushing for sure, right? I mean, we're both on that. What else do we have? Maybe a Hurts TD. I liked that one. So we have the two QBs getting some action. And then what do you have? The rush yards on Swift, colder game.
So I mean, we'll allow the folks a little behind the scenes here on what I have for my primetime parlay. It's not up at Coolbet yet, but what it will be, kind of going back to what was working from before near the start of the year. Over 3.5 field goals, a Jalen Hurts touchdown, and Chris Jones to record 1+ sack. So maybe we go away from the Hurts. Maybe we do maybe the rush yards for Swift. You also like that Brown one, which I don't mind if we tease down a little bit. Maybe we tease it to, would you say that the total was what, 81?
81. But I mean, if we want to work it down a little, like I'll just work through Bet Builder here as we're kind of discussing. So we can take Brown to, let's see. We take Brown to, he's a 70+ option. We could take him all the way down to 70+ in our Bet Builder. We got the rushing yards. Let's see for. Sorry, I'm just working through the Bet Builder here, folks. Mahomes. That's not on there. Okay.
While you're running through that, yeah, no worries. While you're working through that, I'm just gonna pop in the chat here. Pat Maroon's bib. Hurts anytime, TD plus 120. Brown 80 yards. Swift over 55. Mahomes over 26 rushing yards and over 3 field goals. So he's cooking something up with our picks there. You always love to hear that. Duck Dad also saying, doing my gridiron bet and get and fun day parlay tonight, need some solid insight. Maybe it hasn't come to the right place with the replacements being on deck, but we'll try to do our best here. Over under Taylor Swift shown from Mark. Mark, breaking news: Taylor Swift not going to be at the game, but you better believe that they're probably still going to be talking about it. I mean, we've got Travis Kelce playing, and then on the other side, we've got a guy named Swift. So there's going to be a fair share amount of talking about Taylor Swift. We just won't be seeing her up in the box with Mrs. Kelce because she will not be at the game. So good news for folks that have kind of had enough of the Taylor and Travis saga that's been going on in the NFL. Jake, have you put this together? Have you crunched the numbers?
I have crunched the numbers. So this is what we could do, and we have the option with Brown because we can go up to 80 as well. So if we want to go with this one, Swift 50+ rush yards, Mahomes 25+ rush yards, and then Brown 70+ receiving yards is plus 260 in the Bet Builder. So we'll get a little boost on that. Probably get it close to 3-1, maybe not quite 3-1.
Okay.
Or we take Brown out at 70 and go to 80. And that's plus 320. So, we probably get around like 3.5 to 1.
So we really only get, so it goes, do we want to
like an extra 60 points on the 10 extra yards?
Yeah.
It's a matter of safety, and it's a matter do we go big or we keep it safe with 70 yards? And people love the tease, Pat. They love the Patty G's tease. We're teasing that Brown number down, trying to make it a little easier for the people.
Yeah, you know what? Let's tease it down. This Chiefs secondary is legit. But with that being said, like Brown's going to get his, right? There's going to be a big play. There's going to be an explosive play. Even if they keep him to, let's say, 4-5 receptions, I still think getting to 70 is going to be pretty easy for him. I think he gets to that 80 too, but I think to be honest, to be quite honest, my Patty G's or primetime parlay, I should say, is a little bit juicier than I normally have. So if the folks are looking for a little bit of a juice bag, they can go there. Mark saying love the tease. We got to keep the theme of the tease. Let's go with Brown at 70, and we'll keep the others. Hopefully we'll get it at 3-1. I think that's a really good number.
Okay, so we'll do that. So that'll be up. We'll put that in the locks up section, but we'll do it under the replacements. So you'll know it's us. It's not the big dogs. We might have one for them. If that goes up, it'll be a lock shop partner parlay. Anything else on football, Pat? While
Wait.
we're here, while we're on the topic.
Couple things. One, I wanted to quickly let the folks know because they were talking about all the campaigns going on, the Gridiron, the Sunday Fun Day, whatever it may be. But we got another one coming up, the U.S. American Football Special Celebrate North of the Border. It's one of my favorite holidays, even though it's not an official holiday here in Canada. You know, Thanksgiving on Thursday, big slate of football, 3 games. So basically, we're bringing this one back. We had it a couple of years ago. So you bet $20 on the Lions versus Packers game. And once your bet has been settled, you'll receive a $10 free bet to use either on the Cowboys Commanders game at 4:30 Eastern or the nightcap, the Seahawks and 49ers game. So basically, bet 20, get 10 for 2 of those later games. It is already live. We already have odds up for those games. So if you want to get in on the action, you want to make sure you don't forget. You might be at the office, might be at work, whatever it is on Thursday. We tend to, with us working from home, Jake, we're pretty lucky we get to watch the games from home, which is nice. But again, one of my favorite traditions, and that's why we're throwing that one back up together. The other thing, I think we're getting
We're getting some
Mr. Lean. I don't know, chat.
We're getting Mr. Lean coming through here.
Yeah, chat. Let us know if you guys can hear Mr. Lean.
Yeah,
we can hear him in our cans, but well, we'll. So, anyways, we're all good here. Anyways, yeah, you said anything else on football quickly. You don't have to comment on it. I figured because you were talking about pretenders, contenders, might as well look at the reset after Sunday's slate of some of these futures. Super Bowl. Chiefs plus 425. They are the favorites. The 49ers plus 450. Eagles plus 425. The Ravens are at plus 900. The Dolphins at 10-1. Cowboys 12-1. The Lions 14-1. The Jags at 20-1. The Bills 25-1. And then there's a big drop off with the Browns at 40-1. The Texans 50-1. And I don't think I need to go into anything there. Any of those jump off the page? Any certain bets there that you would consider sprinkling on to win the Super Bowl?
I mean, we talked about it. Like the best teams really are at the top, in my opinion. Chiefs, Niners, Eagles, Ravens. So, if you're looking at those 4 as the teams that can win a Super Bowl, your best value play right there is the Ravens at 9-1. If you go a little further down the list, your Bills there at 25-1. If you think this Joe Brady era is going to be different, you think they can kind of get it together, get through the gauntlet, and get in. That's a solid value number, especially if they beat a couple good teams on the road to the end of the season here. But yeah, I really wouldn't go further than even the Browns. Like, I'm not big on DTR. I don't think Flacco is going to be the answer. So
come on,
the defense is legit. I just don't think. I just have a hard time believing a team can win a Super Bowl, without a quarterback, a serviceable quarterback. I know Flacco won a Super Bowl.
That was 10 years ago, man. It's times have changed.
Yeah, Texans 50-1. I mean, that's nice, really nice number. You think C.J. Stroud, a rookie quarterback, can go into the playoffs and make a Super Bowl, win a Super Bowl? I think that's probably tough. So,
well, on that, Jake, if you don't, if you think 50-1, obviously a nice number, but a little bit unlikely. Let's flip over to the division winners. Yeah. Houston Texans plus 240 to catch the Jags and win the AFC South. I know if the Texans, roll up to the Jags in this next upcoming match and beat them, you got to figure those odds are going to be flipping pretty quickly. So I think if you think that loss that the Texans just picked up was just, a team kind of getting back to reality, then yeah, maybe the Jags are the team that should win this division. They were pegged to win the division. Or if you're on the mindset of Jake Bolamas is right here and saying, no, that we don't know how good the Jags really are, maybe it's worth sprinkling Texans at plus 240. Some of the other ones, Miami Dolphins, you mentioned that already, plus 400. The Bills not too far behind at plus 300. Maybe that's worth it. Ravens, you got to think with the Browns quarterback situation, that's ripped up. They're at plus 222. The Browns at plus 275. Steelers 800. And the Bengals 66 to 1. That one's all wrapped up. Won't even bother with the Chiefs minus 2,500. The Eagles minus 500. They're pretty much locked up there. Same with the Lions at plus 2,000. The 49ers minus 1,000. The other one that I think is really still up for grabs, and for not a good reason, just the fact that there really aren't a ton of good teams in this division. NFC South, Saints minus 135, Falcons plus 275, the Buccaneers plus 325, or the Panthers at plus 2 and a lot of zeros followed after that. I don't know if you really would want to bet anyone in this division anyways, just considering how gross it is. But Jake, any thoughts on that division or any of the other ones that we quickly ran through?
Yeah, folks, think about this. One of those 4 teams is getting a home playoff game, whoever wins the division. So, yeah, Saints, Falcons, Bucks. I mean, Panthers are out of it. So, I don't know. I actually don't know. I think Falcons, in terms of talent on the field, I like the Falcons, and they're getting plus 275. I don't mind that at all. But I just think coaching of the Falcons is really an issue. And I just don't know if I can get on board with that. They're kind of coming off the bye, huge week for them. They're playing the Saints. So they beat the Saints this week. You could see that number shift. If you like the Falcons, I don't know why, but
put it this way here, Jay.
That's a pretty solid number. They win this week.
Yeah, no doubt. And put it this way here, Jake. They control their own destiny. They really do. They've got the Saints this week, then the Jets the following week, and then the Bucks, the Panthers at the Colts, host the Bears, and then they host the Saints. So pretty much all in that division, which makes that really, really interesting. Obviously, the Bears and the Colts out of the division, but a lot of division action, and the Jets the following week. But still, a lot of in-division play as the season comes on. So that's something that we'll obviously watch. The individual awards, those will reopen as well. So keep an eye on that. But always a good time at the end of the week, whether it's on Monday, or even on Tuesday morning. A lot of those odds reopen, recalibrate once we kind of get a little bigger handle. And again, as we get deeper in the season, man, a lot of these odds are going to stay closely locked in because we're getting closer and closer to seeing a little bit better of a playoff picture. Maybe not so much in the AFC East or AFC. As we know, it's crazy how close this playoff picture is looking. A sport that is nowhere near playoff time, but is certainly heating up, is the National Hockey League. We had some fun putting together some bets for the replacements NHL parlay. I don't think that one cashed, but we were close. A lot of our individual props and picks that we made won. So we figure, and I think it was Mark in the chat said, this is an awesome week for hockey. And I've got to agree. No action on Thursday because of American football. But we've got action throughout the week, some big slates. And even on Friday, we have some afternoon hockey, but a solid slate here tonight. I'll quickly run through it. Oilers and Panthers almost at a pick 'em. The Oilers minus 109. The Panthers on the home side at minus 108. Bruins and Lightning. The Bruins are a road favorite at minus 142. Tampa plus 122. The Rangers visiting the Stars. Rangers are plus 108, while the Stars are minus 126. The Avalanche road dogs, road favorites minus 158. The Preds plus 134 at home. The Kings visiting the Yotes. The Yotes home dogs at plus 122. The Kings minus 143. And then we get into a couple more Canadian teams. Flames and Kraken, another close one. Flames minus 102 on the road. The Kraken at home minus 115. And the Sharks and the Canucks. Oh boy, the Sharks. The poor Sharks plus 295. while the home side Canucks are minus 368. Even to bet them on the puck line at minus 1.5, they're minus 141. If you go all the way up to 2, then you get plus money, plus 122 for them to win by 3 goals. In reg, let's check that out real quick. What do we got for in reg here? Still Canucks minus 120 or 217. Boy, that is rough.
Yeah.
Anyways, Jake, a few hockey games here before we hand it off over to Mr. Lean. What do you like in the National Hockey League?
Yeah, I mean, if we're looking at Canadian teams, Pickard's getting the start for Edmonton. I'd probably lean the over there at 7 plus money. I mean, you can tease it down to 6.5, but you really lose a lot of value, minus 141. But that feels like it could be a really high scoring game. Stars line's very interesting. I was just looking at some of the recent games. Stars coming off a loss to the Avs, but the Rangers, they've lost like 1 game in their last 10, and they're underdogs on the road. And last time I took the bait. I took the bait on the underdog in the Canucks. I think that was the one that we did lose on placements. I think I'd go the other way this time. I think it's Stars at home. I think that just based on what the line is telling me, the Rangers, as hot as they've been, are going to be underdogs on the road in Dallas. That makes me think that it's Dallas tonight. So that's one that I'd look at. I mean, I don't know if we're trying to put together a replacements NHL parlay, but those are 2 that I'd have in mind. Any thoughts on the slate yourself?
I definitely, with the over, that was one that I was looking at in the Oilers Panthers. I like the Avs on the road. I know it's been a little bit of an up and down season for them. I think they're a team that's now going to and continue to start to find their stride. They're getting healthy. And then, the Sharks are awful. I know I was laughing at how bad some of the value is for them on the puck line. But I mean, if I'm putting them in a parlay, I would certainly consider going puck line in reg. But a player prop, my favorite player prop of the night, Valeri Nichushkin, over 2.5 shots, minus 167, a little bit juicy on there. I would even consider throwing a goal for him as well. He's been playing really well. He's back in this lineup. He's a big key cog in why they won that cup. I think the reason why they were struggling was because he was out or playing banged up. So if we want to go replacements parlay here, over 6.5, Valeri Nichushkin over 2.5 shots, and Stars money line, that's plus 390. I don't know what you think about that one there.
Maybe you like the Avs, right? Maybe we go. Oh, I guess we have the Avs player shots in there. Okay.
I like the shots more than I like the Avs to win, to be honest.
Okay, so we'll do Stars. We'll do Stars. Nichushkin shots at 2.5. The over 6.5 is minus 141. Do you like the same number for the over Canucks puck line? Do you like the over more? Or do you like the puck line?
I like the over more. Oilers offense has come to life. Pickard's in net, and the Panthers are a team that, especially getting they've got Ekblad back. They've got Montour back. Mm-hmm. Last year, they were one of the best teams producing from the point. So I could see this being a goal fest for sure.
Yeah, and it's been run and gun, with Florida. It just feels like 2 teams. You can't set the number high enough. I mean, that's why you've seen it at 7 right now, plus money. I just think it's got to be the highest scoring game of the night, and if it is, then we're well on our way to the start of a nice replacements parlay. So we'll fire those 2 up. We'll talk with the boys, see if they want to get anything else up, but that's basically all we've got for the day. I know we're running out of time here, so it was a great weekend of football. For what's to come here this week. Thanksgiving. Let's go.
Yeah. Huge week, feast week as well. College basketball going on during the day. You can hit that up at Coolbet. And if you haven't hit up Coolbet yet, remember, when you make that first time deposit, use promo code LOCKSHOP and we will double up your first deposit up to $200 Canadian. For everyone at Edmonton Sports Talk, Mr. Lean, we want to thank once again for allowing us to stepping in, replace for the two big dogs. They'll be back tomorrow. Huss actually will be on Winnipeg Sports Talk later on, about in 4 minutes here. And Dusty will be back to recap all things Grey Cup week and, of course, the Edmonton Oilers game. Hopefully for the folks probably watching right now, hoping for a win. For us, we just want goals. You can catch that on the Nielsen Show tomorrow morning here on Edmonton Sports Talk Radio. He's been Jake Bolamas. I'm Pat Gregoire. We want to thank you for tuning in. And as always, stay cool and bet responsibly.
And thanks to the boys from Coolbet right there, presenting you the lock shop as Dusty and Huss, as they mentioned. Coming back to Winnipeg, Edmonton, respectively, from the Grey Cup. Matt Awanek with you here on EdmontonSportsTalk.com. Those listening on TuneIn, as well as those watching on YouTube. Hello. Good morning to you. It's almost the afternoon, and this generally would be Fantasy Football 5, presented by Century Casino Sports Bar and a Casino. It's going to be the place you want to be tonight. One, you got to watch the Edmonton Oilers take on the Florida Panthers. We'll have you covered with that momentarily with the Oil Stream, as myself and Tom Gazzola will get you set for that game at noon with the Oil Stream. And then there's the Oil Stream pregame show, 3:30. Tommy, I believe Cass is going to be by, and YouTube Trev. That's when our pregame show will take over right here on Edmonton Sports Talk. But it is the day of the big draw. Someone's going to win a trip to Los Angeles to see the Rams and the Browns. You could join Lieutenant Eric at the Century Casino Sports Bar and Lounge tonight for, I think it's also one last chance to qualify too. So even if you haven't qualified, if you get there for the game tonight, you could get that final draw into the entry for this trip. And all you need is one. You just need one entry, and it could be your name that's drawn, and you're going to L.A. to go watch an NFL game. That's happening tonight down at Century Casino Sports Bar and Lounge. Dustin Nielsen, he'll be back tomorrow with the morning show with the Lock Shop, with the Fantasy Football 5, as well as there'll be two guys and a goalie tomorrow. Just quickly, I don't get to gloat much about fantasy football too often. Big week for me when it comes to fantasy football. 123 points in my league, destroying Kixie, the commissioner of my league. Going to improve to 7-4. Just a massive game. Even though Cooper Kupp got injured, didn't do much for me. Still put up big points. Number one scorer in my league this week, so I'm just going to take that moment to gloat. As my league's getting set for the playoffs, but Dusty will be back tomorrow with any help you need looking towards the waiver wire that opens for most people on Wednesday. Dusty will give you some advice on some of the players you should be looking to target on the waiver wire if there's still any few players left out there this late in the season. But again, get down to Century Casino Sports Bar and Lounge tonight for a chance to win a trip to Los Angeles to see the Rams and the Browns, to watch the Thursday Nighter, which will be a good one between the Eagles and the Chiefs, to hang out with Lieutenant Eric, and as well, the Oiler game will be on as they take on the Florida Panthers. That's it for the Lock Shop today, as well as this sort of Fantasy Football 5. Coming up next, it will be the Oil Stream. Myself, Tom Gazzola, will get you set for that game tonight as Calvin Picker gets the start in net for the Oilers. That's coming up right away here on Edmonton Sports Talk, EdmontonSportsTalk.com. Tune in and on YouTube. Talk to you very, very soon with the Oil Stream.